I think, personally, the 2014 World Cup win in Bangladesh ranks at the top because I've been there 5 times before, 5th time included that one, and failed to get across the line.
T20?
T20
yeah,
and,
not
and,
when
and
you say
50
World
over
Cup.
as well. So we've been in 2 50 over finals, 2 T20 finals before, and not got over the line. So to get over the line in Bangladesh was, you kind of, it's a vindication of sorts of yourself as a cricketer and your team and what they've struggled through and achieved. But coming to Lord's, knowing it's my last tour, and leading up to Lord's, everyone's been asking me, are you going to get 100 at Lord's? Are you going to get 100 at Lord's? And I knew I wanted to get 100 at Lord's. And then I actually started then to say, okay, just don't jinx it. And I said, oh, well, if it happens, it happens. But then if it doesn't, it doesn't. I kind of a very philosophical view in interview, but inside I was like, yes, I really want this 100. And it's one of those really strange days of batting. And it's about the second time I've ever batted in my life and not put a foot wrong. I think I had one inside edge of James Anderson, but everything else just happened, like an autopilot. I remember once against the West Indies, I had failed in 3 innings in Sri Lanka, and the 4th inning, I remember my wife was talking about something, and she said, oh, you got a game tomorrow, I hope you get some runs. And I remember telling her, I'm definitely going to get 100 because I just know. And I did. And the funny thing at Lord's was walking out to Lord's, I was in the balcony thinking, after all this build-up, my final innings, my final test at Lord's, imagine what would happen if I get out for a duck. What would happen if I walk out there, through the long room, all the way out there, wishing so badly that I needed 100, and I got out first ball. And I actually laughed to myself in the dressing room thinking, wouldn't that be ironic? Wouldn't that be so funny? And having walked out there, crossed the line, for some reason there was a lot of clarity in the sense that I was there to score runs for the side. If I get to 100, great, but I'm just going to enjoy that moment, much like what Brendon said in his amazing lecture a few minutes ago. So yes, it ranks right up there with the best times I've had.
How many hundreds have you made at Lord's?
Single figures, definitely. Single figures. But I have never walked down, I still don't come down them stairs and think I'm going to score 100. I think it's safe to say there's a lot of us that don't.
Have you had that feeling? You think, I'm going to score 100?
Well, I was actually just thinking, because I actually had that same ambition of getting 100 at Lord's in my final innings, and I got out first ball.
I think I jinxed it for you.
Did you? Actually, I don't know, the boyhood ambition thing. I'm not so sure. It is a valuable thing to do, but not necessarily a lifetime ambition, because there's a big world out there. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I think everyone's different, and again, you don't want to judge other people who are statistically minded or driven in that way. But for me, it was not about that. It was about trying to have a good time with your teammates, and you hope to be winning games. You hope to do well, but ultimately, it was always just a game. And
there's a bigger.
Yeah, but everyone's different, and I guess you've got to be respectful of that. To bring a team together, you've got to understand what motivates different people to be able to get them to perform at their best. And we were lucky enough for our team that it was a matter of trying to have a good time.
We've felt watching England under your leadership since the World Cup in Australia, so for this past year, and obviously particularly it focuses in the 2020 World Cup, but also in other short-form matches, that you might have sort of felt a bit of the stardust that Brendon had sprinkled on the game. Is that fair?
Oh, I think it is fair. Everybody here will commend Brendon for what he's done, not only for the spirit of the game, but in the manner in which they've played it. And it's a big factor. I hold it in huge regard in the future of English cricket. I think it's quite adamant the way we play has to appeal to everybody who's watching us. We have to inspire and take on role model attitude that, what the spirit of the game is very important. It's not just about winning and losing. We spend so many hours in the net putting in hard work that when we go out and play and take the field, we want to be as freed up as possible. And over the last 12 months, we've managed to achieve that in a very small way. The challenge is pushing that over the next 3 years towards a World Cup.
There's one thing I just wanted to pick you up on your point about mental freedom, and specifically the day's play after you had met with Andy Pycroft and the 2 Australian umpires, and then you were told you had to go ahead, and then your team released under the guidance of the sports psychoanalyst you'd sought, whose guidance you'd sought. Did you specifically say to the guys, I don't think we should celebrate wickets? In other words, I don't think we should make a show of ourselves or our performance, or was that something that just happened?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I've been asked it quite a lot. For us, it was we didn't have any of those conversations. We never spoke about cricket. For us, it was just stay around your teammates, look after one another, look after yourself, and just do what feels right. And it just happened. Like, we didn't wear black caps either, and like, we're incredibly proud of representing the black cap, but it just didn't feel right at the time. We didn't celebrate wickets. We didn't bowl bounces. We didn't do any of that, and it was just authentic. It just unfolded as things happen, and in the end, it was the only way we could get through the day and get through the days which followed that as well, was just by sticking together and trying to look after one another.
And everything was natural, right?
Yeah,
Not instructed. It's an interesting point. You, when you spoke to us a couple of years ago, you talked a lot about your small island and the great pride that there is in cricket and in cricketers. Do you think that the smaller the island, the smaller the cricketing base, the more sort of nationalistic your pride becomes? Or do you think that anybody's pride is as big as anybody else? Or do you fight harder for that little island?
I always think it's, like Brendon said before, when I also am a strong believer in the fact that you're motivated by various reasons to play. Sometimes it's to do with things that people might term petty or cheap, fame, money, whatever. Others are motivated by maybe slightly more grand ideals. But the whole point is to be able to recognize why you do what you do. And when you play a team sport like cricket that has a fanatical following in Sri Lanka, it actually goes beyond just playing a sport. And the circumstances in which we found ourselves as a cricket team, the social changes that we saw, the horrors of war, all of that impacts upon the so-called pride, the feeling that you have when you walk out into the field wearing your national cap and your national colours. And for us, being 15, and a different 15 in terms of religion, race, ethnicity, to be able to unite together to actually play for our country and to chase a victory irrespective of all these so-called perceived differences, that was what I think motivated us the most. And once in a while you lose sight of it, but I think, you finish playing the game and you go home and you sit with your family, and then I think if you've lost your way, that's when you find your way again. Because when you're surrounded by people that love you without judgment, you also look at yourself in a very realistic and very honest manner. And I think for us, it was always the case. Play your cricket on the field, appreciate how lucky you are in life outside the field. And at the end of the day, for us, cricket was a sport, but our role as cricketers was more to bring a country together and to heal.
Right, well, let's a lot of talk about the structure of the game now. Hints that a 2-tier Test match championship is upon us. Firstly, do you think, Eoin, that 50-over cricket and 20-over cricket have a place together in the international calendar alongside the Test match game?
Yeah, I do. And I actually feel quite strongly about it. I think in a world where T20 has become quite dominant, and it's not just internationally, it's actually domestic competitions that are almost formulating a new industry themselves. I think it's very important that all three formats work side by side in order to not prolong any one format, but to almost encourage and open avenues where they're needed. I'll give you an example. The first 2 Test matches of this recent series against Sri Lanka, the attendances were probably as we're used to. We're very fortunate in this country where people will come. rain, wind, or snow, they'll come and watch cricket. This year it's been a little bit different so far. And I think there could be an avenue whereby if we did have our own city-based tournament, the revenues from that can almost dovetail test match attendances. I don't see any reason why they couldn't subsidise ticket prices. So ticket prices don't have to be the same. We know who we're going to play against, not by chance, but by reputation. We probably will have a lower attendance in that series, so we subsidise tickets. We want more and more people coming to test matches. And I think that's the role I see sort of sitting side by side. And I think T20 cricket plays a big role in that.
So they're three separate veins going into the same artery. Are you up for a two-tier system in Test match cricket, or do you lean more towards a World Test Championship or a different idea?
Yeah, look, I'm not overly well read on it, to be honest. I think from our point of view, New Zealand would probably sit in that second tier, and to miss the opportunity to play the best teams in the world consistently and test yourself to see where you're at. It doesn't matter if you lose sometimes, but playing the best is great. And then it allows you to know where you need to be, and then it allows you to go away, work harder, and come back bigger and stronger so that you can then test them next time round. The two tests, let's see what happens, but I think Test cricket's not in a bad state at the moment.
You mean the way the game is played, the exciting nature of Test match cricket now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, not every Test match, obviously, but not every T20 and one-day game's exciting as well. You've got to take the rough with the smooth, and I think over the last few years we've seen Test cricket has actually been pretty strong, and maybe with the advent of the pink ball Test match, for instance, maybe that's enough to stimulate a bit more attendance in Test cricket. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the.
How was the pink ball? Do you see the pink ball all right?
Good story, actually, about that, because Kane Williamson said to me that he couldn't see the seam at night time. I said, what do you mean you see the seam? I said, I spent my whole life not seeing the seam. So, welcome to the rest of us. But I thought it was great. It was amazing. The only thing that would probably change is the pink ball is meant to allow cricket to be played at night time. It's not meant to alter how Test cricket's played. And there was probably just a fraction too much grass on the wicket, because when the lights did come on, the ball went around a little bit more versus being.
But that's a different issue, isn't it? How much grass should be on the pitch is not relevant to whether you could see the ball okay and whether the players reacted well to playing at night time.
Yeah, and there's always too much grass on the wicket.
So yes, you're pro.
I'm a massive fan.
Pro.
Huge fan.
Test match cricket, how would you like to see it?
Well, I would like to see all teams. Sorry, I would like to see all teams get better at playing Test cricket, and you've got to play against the best to see where you are, and you can't. Everyone talks about different solutions to a problem. I think get scheduling right, make sure that the public also has a bit of a breather from all the cricket that's played around the world, so that when a Test match is played, that they actually yearn for the opportunity to come to a ground and watch a Test match. There are so many things you can do around a Test match. Make it more attractive to bring families and children to a Test match. Make sure the facilities, actually.
4 days? 4 days per Test?
I think Test cricket's been played over, after the timeless Test, 5 days. 5 days seems really good, because.
Overrates? Don't you think the overrates are too slow?
See, the best tour I've ever been on in my life has been the 2014 tour to England. And the two Test matches that I've enjoyed, or the two matches I've enjoyed more than any other match I've ever played, has been those two Test matches here at Lord's and up at Headingley. And it was more nail-biting and more exciting than any one-day or T20 match I've ever played. So, for me, you can have a Test World Championship, we can have overrates and all these problems, but it's always going to be the case. There will always be a debate, there will always be someone saying there's a better way to do it. But it is not about, crying that Test cricket is dying, because I think players want to play Test cricket. They want to play better Test cricket. And if you do not compete against the best, I don't think you will get any better.
But